Today on Switch to Linux, we talk about owning the hardware but not the experience anymore. Well, unless, of course, you're running Linux. We're going to use an article from Windows Central as a jump-off point to talk about why I switched to Linux and what this person writing this article is experiencing. Thanks for checking out this Windows Wednesday video on Switch to Linux. If you like this content, subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Leave us a like and a comment down below. And we are going to jump right on into the article here from Rebecca Spear. And this is a nice article which really illustrates why I switched to Linux and the frustration that probably not just I have, but other people have. The real difference, though, between me and many people out there is that I have gotten frustrated enough with this to do something about it. It's like a Dave Ramsey call when the people are like, I'm sick and tired, I'm getting out of debt. You know, you hear about that on his channel if you happen to listen to that guy. But that's really is the principle of everything. I mean, you don't start your journey until you've had enough, you've hit the rock bottom. I had enough a while ago. In fact, I had enough a while ago so much that my second Android phone is what actually made me switch to an iPhone for a while. We're going back, and I think my first Android phone was in like version 2 of Android. I didn't get it right away, but I got one not too long afterwards, and I had that Commando one. You guys remember the Casio Commando phone? Amazing phone. That was my first foray into smartphones. And back then, I'm not even sure if Google had bought Android yet, but it was a neat device, and it could do a lot of cool things. And, you know, it's like, wow, I had this device. I could check my email and I could get on the internet. There were a lot of cool things. And yeah, back in that was the only phone I ever had games installed and things like that. So it was a neat device. It really was. And then when the battery started to go bad, and I could have probably got another battery, but, you know, the technology was moving so fast in that day that I went out and when the battery started to lose its efficiency, I go out and I get the Commando 2 because I'm thinking, man, this Commando is awesome. Let's get the upgraded version. Well, I think that this is probably right when Google had bought it. And just setting the thing up for basic things, it integrated Google so deep into the phone, it actually irritated the hell out of me. Now, at that time, I was working with a startup company. I was a contractor, and the contractor actually was using Google for like their back-end infrastructure. Now, I didn't sign into a Google account on some master location on the phone and sync everything to it. I simply went into the email settings and added the work email in there so I could get emails on the phone. And the way Android worked at that time is it had integrated that login into everything. And I'm getting pop-up notifications and all sorts. I've had people IMing me with like, dude, I am not working right now. I am a contractor. I am not a 24/7 available employee. And that phone irritated me so bad. Within one day, I took that phone back to the store and wiped it out and did an iPhone instead. And I ran iPhones for the next several years, just until I ran the Android or the iPhone. I actually had a Windows phone for a short period of time, but that wasn't particularly stable. So I ran an iPhone through the iPhone 5 series, I think. And then after that is actually when I switched to Lineage. And now, of course, I'm running Graphene OS on a Pixel. And so looking at it, I understand where this article author is coming from. But the thing is way back then when Google wanted to push itself into every aspect of the phone in places I didn't want and I didn't feel control, I took steps to change. Now, going from Android to iPhone back then, good thing. I'm not sure Lineage existed at that point in time. Graphene clearly didn't exist at that point in time. But I got frustrated to the point where I made a change. The same thing pushed me to Linux. I saw the Windows 10 user agreement, and I said, no, it's not happening. I am never using a Windows 10 machine in production. Now, I've had Windows 10 machines for quick testing, to look something up for a client, to understand how it works. But as far as using a Windows machine in production, I have never used anything past Windows 8 in production. All right. For that reason, I got frustrated enough and researched other options. And I think there is a heart behind this article that Rebecca here is frustrated where the direction's going, but I don't think she's taking any interest in looking at alternatives. At least the article reads that way. But this was an amazing article I wanted to talk about briefly. And so having a look at the title at first says a lot. We own the hardware, but not the experience anymore. And I beg to differ. I own all my hardware, and then I have customized my hardware to have the exact experience I want. I got Raspberry Pis built in the wall of this van that run network attached storage. I run ones that server. I have a PFSense router up here that's built. I have 2 Raspberry Pis over here. I can see that one of them is a workstation, one of them is a media server. I have full control. The desktop computers, I have full control over them. They don't pop up with weird random notifications. They don't annoy me to install things. They don't want me to try the cloud. They don't push me to an advertisement. They don't sell me a service. My phone, I don't see ads on that. These things called ads, what are those y'all talk about? I don't see them on my desktop. I don't see them across my browsers. I have developed a life that I kind of like. But the thing is, I do control my experience. But I understand it. The normal person who goes out and buys a device cannot control the experience. They say big tech keeps building smarter, more connected devices, but the user experience feels more intrusive, more confusing, and less human. And with that, I agree so far as you are buying the latest lockdown tech and then using it as the company intends. That is the problem. So it says here in the subline, the line between helpful tech and quiet surveillance is blurring. Yeah, we will cover it in the news this week, but there is the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled that by agreeing to the terms of service in your Google account, you are waiving your Fourth Amendment protections somehow. That's an interesting controversy we will discuss. So having a look here, Windows Central's own editor-in-chief, Daniel Rubio, recently posted an article, and we talked about this. I think was this our last Windows Wednesday, or did it come up in another video? I can't remember. It's the holidays, but I've been doing a few less videos. But it had this comment that we spent some time on. We are no longer consumers, we are no longer customers, just consumers. The most tech companies only aim to extract as much profit as us from possible. That is the principle. And the article here goes on to talk about the next generation of devices, which honestly are becoming less and less impressive as time goes by. You know, what really is the difference between this year's iPhone versus last year's iPhone? Not a whole lot of difference. Most people can't even see or even understand the differences. You just hear, there's a new one. And then a whole bunch of Apple fanboys rush out. They take the phone they're already underwater with, trade that in for the latest model, get further underwater. Look like you're trading in your cars, right? I mean, people are getting underwater in cars. You owe more on the car than you were on the new one. We're getting the same thing with phones. Some people owe more money on their phones than their phones are worth. And we have to stop and question these days. How much is a phone worth? I bought this guy at a pawn shop for $150. I talked him down to that price. I think we paid $130. It was listed at $150. And I was buying a computer and I was waving a few Benjamins. I said, what if I drop another Benjamin in the deal? Can we just throw that phone in there too? And they're like, oh, a guy dropping Benjamins? Yeah, let's do it. You know, drop $400 cash, bought a computer and a phone at a pawn shop. Go figure, you know. But that's the thing is we don't always need the latest and the greatest, the biggest and the best and the baddest, especially since the latest and the greatest and the biggest and the best and the baddest usually just has new technology designed to spy on us, extract our data, and sell us things. And that's the experience I don't want. I will not live my life constantly being advertised to. Now we're getting pop-up notifications to the point where, unfortunately, even some Linux desktop environments are thinking it's appropriate to give us pop-up notifications. GNOME, pop-up, would you like to donate now? No, I would like to uninstall GNOME now. Sorry. I hope Cinnamon never does that. Plasma is doing it. At least Plasma says we're doing it one time a year. All right, great, fine. No, I'm not fine, actually. I hate that as well. But and you can go in there and at least in Plasma, you can turn that off. GNOME, I'm not sure, but GNOME also pushes it randomly more frequently so that now your GNOME experience on Linux starts to feel like a Windows. Hey, have you considered buying Office 365? No. No, actually, yes, I have considered it. I've rejected your offer. Stop annoying me about it. Here's GNOME. Hey, bing! Notice there's something important going on. Give us money. No. Uninstall. Okay. So at least with Linux, I have my choice. I can go with my XFCE, my Mate, I can do my Cinnamon, Budgie, hopefully I won't get pop-ups on everything. But looking at that, they talk here a little bit about the technology is coming out and it's so much, but we also have to think about our fragile economy as well. Because what would happen if Apple really didn't push out a new version every year? Well, at best, their stock would stagnate, which means the investors don't make as much money. At worst, their stock would go down, which means their investors lose money. And this would cause some serious consequences. So by a mere force of economic factors, Apple is forced to push out, even if they can't find any form of innovation. They just roll out a new version of the phone, like, sir, we don't know what to do with it. Change the colors, and then we'll do that. But what would happen? Well, what would happen is they wouldn't have this giant, massive push for tons of people spending thousands of dollars that, by the way, most of them don't have on a phone that, by the way, none of them need. They would only sell new phones when your phone legitimately stopped working or when a new person came in the market with the phone. So, a new kid grows up to the age the parents decide they need a phone. Bing, we have another sale. Oh, my phone's finally dying. I gotta get a new sale. That would cause Apple's stock to stagnate or fall. Now, this is where a lot of these companies are going with subscription models because you're not as dependent on selling a new product if you can sell them a continued and renewing service. The problem is a lot of this new tech, to this article's argument here, are pushing that exact feature. They are pushing, hey, want to get this? Hey, you want to upgrade your iCloud? Hey, you want to upgrade to OneDrive? Hey, you want to upgrade your OneDrive space? Hey, would you like to get an Xbox Game Pass? Hey, would you like to try Office 365? Hey, would you like to just give us money? Hey, by the way, would you like to add a 10% tip? What? I haven't seen that yet, to be fair, but there have been tips in you can go to a McDonald's, place an order on the self-ordering kiosk, and ask if you want to leave a tip. For what and for whom? I walked in the store. I'm doing all the work. I'm going to have some lazy slug come up who's mad about having to be inconvenienced with handing me the bag. I'm not giving anybody a tip. But how long before we start seeing this in the tech industry, where you not only have your service, but they might even start offering for a tip? I mean, isn't that kind of what GNOME is doing anyway? Would you like to tip? To be fair, if you're using GNOME, you should support the project. You really should. And I'm a huge advocate of that. All right. The question we have, though, is that appropriate type of feed? And that's the question we want to get at here, because a lot of these new devices are simply there to sell us new services. In fact, I don't know if we're going to cover it in the news or not. I can't wrap my head around it because I'm an old dude who doesn't video game. But the NVIDIA Now is, I guess, is like a streaming system that now you have to pay them, but you only have a certain number of hours to actually stream. I guess you can stream video games on it, I think, is the concept. But they're enforcing their 100-hour per month streaming limits, and if you want to pay more than that, it almost doubles the cost. It's insanity that we would now pay NVIDIA a massive monthly fee to stream video games to the device that we're capped at the amount we can actually play. It's baffling to me, but that is where we are going. Now, they talk here about hardware is no longer an extension of ourselves. It is a separate entity. And she says they're continuing Daniel's discussion. It's not that people are no longer interested in hardware from the most influential companies. After all, it's almost impossible to exist in this world without tech. No, we always need and want devices. We just don't love them anymore, and for good reason. And on that principle, I want to say I have started, in fact, I felt this way before switching to Linux. I felt this way as I'd go to the store. way back in Windows 95 era. It might have been, maybe it was 95, maybe it was 98. I don't know, somewhere around there. I actually was studying the Windows registry editor, and I learned how to do things. And this was actually before Windows 98 had the theming. I actually learned that all of the theming changes in Windows was done with registry edits. So I actually built a series of themes. I had one based on Pink Floyd, The Wall. I had another one based on, I don't know. I had a few based on like albums I liked, a few different general themes I had. And they were really cool. I did backgrounds. I did color schemes. Remember in Windows when you could actually go in and you could manually change the color of all the windows and the tiles and all that kind of stuff. You had all that, and it would change your icons. It would change your sounds. And all of that was embedded in registry files. And back in the Windows 95 era, before Windows 98 released their theme editor, I actually went in there and created registry files, and then I linked them onto the start menu. And if I wanted to change the theme on my computer, I'd pull up that window, go to themes, and I would just click the theme, and then boom, instantly my background changed, my colors changed, my icons change, my mouse cursors change. I actually had a program that I could make mouse wall. I actually think I might still have it somewhere. It is from Pink Floyd, The Wall, and it's a brick wall, like the waiting cursor that's like the hourglass. Mine is a brick wall that goes down and it says The Wall at the end. It's really cool. If I still have it, I'll see if I can find it. It might be in my backup somewhere. But I did all these things, and computing was so fun. And then through that era into the XP era, I'd go in and I'd pull up that start menu, and it's so full of bloated crap. Every program you'd install would install like the program in a folder and then 5 other things with it that were unnecessary, including putting like the user's manual on the start menu. Like, why would I want this here? So I would go in there, I'd spend time going in and editing that menu and just making the computer exactly on. You pull up my computer, you get a very small window, and then boom, everything was perfectly organized. And then when Windows 7 came out, you could no longer arrange it the way I wanted to. You could do a little bit, but not all of it. And then of course with 8 and on, you just couldn't do anything at all. Windows is so locked down, you're going to use it the way Windows wants you to use it, period. There's really no in between. And that really is the world that we got stuck on. And that was where we're at now. And it was just becoming soulless. And when I switched to Linux, I'm like, wait, I can customize everything again? It was this breath of fresh air that caused me to love my devices again. In fact, I had stopped watching movies until I could watch them locally on a server without having to swap discs in and out all the time, without going over to the stand and finding the disc and putting it in the player and doing all this kind of stuff. When I could centralize it all on a central server, in the time, in fact, when I switched to Linux, I think I only had like 40 movies left. I sold them all. I just wasn't watching movies because it was just too inconvenient. But under no circumstance was I going to be paying for streaming when I didn't own the movies. But then after I switched to Linux, and I'm like, wow, I can do this. Since then, I have bought 350 movies, and I don't subscribe to that whole piracy thing. I don't just go on the internet and find copies of movies. I buy the movies I want. And I have bought hundreds of movies since switching to Linux because it made computing fun again. It made me love my hardware. It made me buy things. I'm still kind of a minimalist. I'm a minimalist in far more ways than some would say, but I was such a minimalist that time. I only had a laptop and a desktop computer, and that's it. And I got built into this van. I think I got like 10 computers around here, just built into the van. I got 4. I think I have 4 laptops in this van. 4 Raspberry Pis built into the wall. I think I have 3 or more Raspberry Pis down here for extra work. I have a custom built pfSense router there. I got the mini PC. I got the streaming PC. I got computers around here because it made working with hardware fun again. Because I switched to Linux. I didn't consign myself to how a person wanted the device to run. It says, back in the day, if I bought a laptop, a phone, or other device, I'd customize it until it functioned the way I liked it. Well, I got news for you. When I buy a laptop, a phone, or other device today, I customize it today the way I like it. I'm just not a normie. I've had it with these companies. I've had it with what they are doing. Okay, whenever I bought a tool, it served exactly what I wanted within the device's capabilities, and only when I instructed it to do so. Software largely stayed the same aside from manual changes that I instigated. To an extent, those devices thoroughly represented me and my desires, and it was easy to love them. Of course, now that's all gone. Now, there are some caveats in the world of Linux. If you're running an Arch-based system, every time you run updates, you're going to get new versions of things. Things are going to change more. If you don't like that, hey, stay on the Debian branch. Stuff changes like every 5 years. Okay. You get security updates. That's about it. Right, many modern devices no longer feel like they belong to us. I might own the hardware, but its soul is on loan and likely to change thanks to the internet. That connection means that many of our devices are constantly getting updates that can drastically alter our user experience and how we feel about our devices. In fact, there's another one. I've been experimenting with AI for clients over the course of the last year. And almost a year ago, I purchased a subscription to an AI service, and they have been crapified it. It is so bad, I'm not going to renew it. And when they're like, hey, it's time for you to renew, I'm going to tell them you've been crapified your service. I'm not interested anymore. Okay. From number one is that the article lengths I could get written. There's a drop down menu to say about how long it should be, but the system doesn't pay any attention to it. Like, I want a 1,000-word article. Hey, here's your 2,500-word article. I don't want a 2,500-word article. Neither does my client. Okay, select 500. It's still 1,700. I'm like, what is going on? And then they just recently changed the whole thing around that it takes me like 5 clicks to find the only tool I'm using in there anymore, rather than the 1 click it used to be. I'm like, what are you doing? And so I'm just, because I've actually solved the article problem with local AI. I just can't solve one of the other components yet. We're working on it. But the thing is that with this constant updates, the product I bought a year ago for a pretty good sum of money is not the same product I have today. And that pisses me off. And I want my computers to stay the same until I choose to actively change them. And that's one of the things that I like about it, that I don't want stuff that's constantly online. So, and really in here, there's just a lot in here. So some of it's just the dystopian technology. She gets into the surveillance stuff. Real possibility the features you aren't comfortable with are getting added to your device, like Windows Recall. And some people do recognize that some of these things are added. Like, you buy your $3,000 Samsung refrigerator because it's like, okay, this is a $3,000 refrigerator. I bet this thing's going to be built. And then a couple weeks later, an over-the-air software update comes, and now it's showing you ads. Well, I didn't buy it with ads. I mean, hey, at least Amazon was selling devices at a loss to make up its money on ads. Samsung wants to just do that. Which, by the way, about not too long ago, Samsung leadership's like, we do not use our products to sell stuff. Well, now we see how much money we can make. We're going to use all our products to sell stuff. Yeah. But yeah, if you have a computer, think about your LG TVs. We talked about this in the Weekly News Roundup, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. LG TVs got a WebOS update that not only did it add Copilot that you can't uninstall, but also behind the scenes, they added that new psychological targeting stuff. The I forget the name of it, but it's a feature that's turned on that will collect a bunch of data about you and sell it to the advertising partners, particularly the Science as a Service that they embedded. They've been working with them since February to embed in their new WebOS operating system on the LG TVs that just suddenly updated themselves and installed itself, that will actively watch what you do and utilize a psychological profile it builds upon you and sends it to you. You know who that's not happening to? Me. Because I don't have a smart TV. Nor am I interested in getting one. But you can't get one. Yeah, you can. You got to research. There's still 4 companies that make TVs that are dumb TVs. And you can buy them online. You can buy them for pickup at a local store. So there are options out there, but are you willing to use these types of services that embed these things directly in us? That is a fundamental question. It's also possible that your favorite features could be removed from your device, or that an update could ruin your setup, like that AI system had. Like, several people started reporting SSDs had been bricked following a simple Microsoft update. How wonderful. That, by the way, it forced upon you. You didn't have a choice. And so the entire article kind of gets into this. Let's read this paragraph here too. This is a good paragraph. Perhaps the worst offense is when someone excitedly buys a fun gadget only for these devices to constantly ping you like a socially inept momtrepreneur friend that cannot get the hint that you are not interested in their offerings. They just want you to spend, spend, spend. I'm looking at you, Amazon. That's why I researched the new watch I had to buy when my old one finally died on me. I researched the watch and I got one that I do not have to set up with the app. It works, actually it's more functional than my previous one because it works with Gadget Bridge, that is a free and open source app available on my Graphene OS phone, so I can see my data on my phone without sending it to any big tech. And guess what? The watch is not annoying me or pestering me to sign up for some service somewhere. Now, if I had this installed on the with the official Garmin app on the official Garmin store, downloaded from the official Google Play Store, oh, I bet that thing would probably be nagging me about something. But that's kind of the thing. So as far as the results go, do you think big tech has lost its heading? 64% say the magic is gone, and 29% say innovation feels stale. So what is that? 64, 74, 84, 94, 93, 93% of people are all sitting here going, yep. And then 4% of people are completely delusional, thinking not really, they're still delivering. And 3% of people need a mental help because they say people just expect too much. I expect too much by wanting an operating system that's not constantly pestering me to spend money that I have no interest in spending on a service I do not absolutely need. And if I can still find the comments in here, the tech industry has taken monetization too far, and I agree. Now, again, going back to that earlier discussion, what happens if Apple stops releasing a new crappy device every year? Well, their stock market, their stock prices either stagnate or drop. And that's really bad for investment, which becomes bad for the economy as a whole. We have built ourselves an economy that is inherently a bubble that will pop. Are we ready for that? Maybe that's part of what my van life is. How could I survive if the world went to crap? You know, well, I know where I can stay out of sight from people, where I can find water, and where I can shoot some food. Okay, I'm good. Are you good? There's a thought. Next on Switch to Prepper. Okay, anyway, this person here, Natty69, I like this one. I have no idea what you're talking about. Everything is fine here. Maybe you should look somewhere else instead of depending on Microsoft. That's the truth. And that's why I wanted to cover this article. I do not have the hatred for the tech that she has here because I have allowed myself to utilize the tech in such a way that I maintain control. I'm not giving it up to any company. And again, this person, not for hire, times and circumstances change. When people start voting with their wallets, things will change again. I think what sadly is going to happen, because people are so addicted to the sheer convenience that we have, sadly, I think what is going to happen is our economy will probably pop before people will stop buying Netflix and other things like that. But you have to understand, if people start going onto Amazon and buying DVDs en masse, and people start canceling Netflix en masse, guess what? Every retail store in your town is going to start selling DVDs again. It's going to happen because they always watch these market trends and they want to know what's selling. And so if people are going online to anywhere they can get DVDs, if you go into Walmart and you clear them out of new releases and that $5 movie bin, and they're making a ton of money on these things, guess what? They're going to expand their DVD section. And if we start actually taking action on these crazy things and doing something different, it will cause the companies to change. As I said in a previous video, Windows isn't so horrible I would never use it. It's just they've lost my trust. It would take a lot to rebuild it. But if they had a Windows version operating system that was completely offline capabilities and give me no pop-up notifications, I would use it. Well, maybe. It depends on how much control I have. But I wouldn't completely reject using it. We should say that. But these changes only happen when people start actually doing something different. And so, really, that's kind of why I wanted to cover the article. Let me know your thoughts about all this crazy rant in the comments down below. Do you take control? Are you interested in taking control? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.